kind of do it like almost like in a light-hearted way, just so that I
Yeah,
don't end up
yeah,
like
I saw you
ruining the conversation or like ruining the mood or
doing the
like,
vibe.
oh, come on, like it was just a joke. But like it's not just a joke, you know, like if it makes you feel lesser than or if it makes you feel uncomfortable, then you've got the right to say, no, that's not okay. But then you don't want to be that guy.
What people think Black Lives Matters is that you're elevating Black people above all other races, but actually all they're trying to do is bridge the gap and make everyone the same, and it's not. Racism in the workplace, like, is that, you know, that is a subtle, something you have to look into that. But have you had like actual, I mean, I'm lucky again, I don't think I've ever had an outright racist interaction in the workplace specifically, maybe on the way out,
Oh, mate,
whatever.
I've had the worst. Like, I worked in a company. So yeah, it was in a really small office in London. I applied for the role. I got interviewed. It was a two-stage interview process, and I got the role. And during the interview, I just thought, oh, this manager, like, you know, the line manager, he's wicked. He's so good. And I thought I can definitely see myself working under him. So my first day that I started, I started on the 12th of December, I remember, which is a Monday. And I walked into the office, bearing in mind I never met my colleagues before, and it was a really small office. There's only about 7 or 8 people in the office. Walked into the office and introduced myself, and they're like, oh, hi. And they were quite a loud bunch, right? And I just thought, all right, cool. I sat down, yeah. And then they had an advent calendar on the wall, and it was kind of like, you know, obviously the 12th day or whatever. And they said, oh, you know, who wants to pick today's advent calendar? So it's like a makeshift advent calendar, so that they made it themselves. They put stuff in the bag, and then you pick it out on the day, and then and there's a joke each day, and then there's like a chocolate or whatever it is as well, or a gift. So someone's like, oh, I'll do it today, and then they did it, and they were like, all right, cool, read the joke out. And then the guy that was about to read the joke out was a bit hesitant, and he goes, he's like, and he just kept pausing, and the other guy goes like, come on, read the joke out, come on. And these guys are really loud, and like they just don't care. Like, you know, they seem like they were just like didn't care who had just started, what the color of that person's skin was. The guy reads a joke out, and it's a joke to do with black people, like a stereotype joke. And in my head, and they were cracking up, and in my head I was just thinking, what the hell? I just thought, this is insane. And I didn't laugh, I didn't even chuckle, like haha, like, you know, like trying to get involved or whatever. I was just a bit like,
no, were there other people like?
There were other people there. They were all pretty much the same, and then there was a couple of people in marketing, like 2 marketing girls, and they were really lovely, but they wouldn't really like crack up, but they would just like, you know, kind of like chuckle and then get on with their work. And I think it was just more, you know, how you get people that just don't want no drama, they don't want any confrontation, and they just get on with their thing.
Most people,
but they don't get involved. So they were like that, and I was the only coloured person in the company. So they were all white. And I just thought, what the hell's going on here? And in my head, and then it continued. So I was working there for about 10 to 11 months, and the jokes just continued, even about Asians, you know, South Asians, stuff to do with religion, you know. I remember at one point they were talking about food, and they were talking about I think they were talking about steak or something, and they said, and my manager, who was like, is a VP of sales and marketing, said, oh, he goes, oh, what's that religion that flipping worship cows? And then and I was there, you know, I'm Hindu, and I was just there, and I was like, Hinduism, and then he goes, yeah, what, you guys worship cows and stuff like that, and then kind of like just said it as if it was okay, and I
like was very trivial, like.
Yeah, and I just didn't know how to handle that at all, with me being the only coloured person. you know, and it was just one of those things that there was so many racial slurs, even when I'm sitting there.
Yeah.
And there would be comments. There would sometimes I'd respond in sarcastic, you know, ways, like comments, and then I remember like once my manager got offended by something I said just because I responded to something he said, and he said something racial, but then I was sarcastic, and I think he got annoyed with that and like said something to me, and then made it out as if like it's just banter.
Oh yeah, of course.
I think you have to be really careful with like just like like I said, insults being disguised as humor or good humor.
Yeah, exactly.
Ignorance is not funny. Like there's no way to spin it. It's just not funny. I think. Yeah,
I remember telling my friends like on that first week, you know, the first day, saying, "Yo, like I messaged them when I was at work saying, you never guess what I just heard on like at work on my first day," and I told them I just like repeated what they said, and then they were like, "What the hell, man? Like it's nuts. What kind of company is that?" And then as things went on, like, you know, over the months, I would also like, you know, tell them everything else I've experienced. And a couple of my friends were like, "You should definitely tell HR." And the thing is, HR was in Canada, and I remember hearing like them say in the office like, "Oh, you know, don't worry, this workplace is fine because HR's in Canada. What are they going to do from there?" Like kind of like bantering like that. And
like what they're
you kind of think that's
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah.
And
This is
I didn't have the guts. I didn't have the guts at that, you know, at that time to just say something.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But so I don't know if this is like completely related, but it really reminds me of like the whole like, oh, it's fine because like this is just like locker room chat. And like
Yeah.
you know, it's just like, oh, it's just between us guys, so it's fine. It's not, you know, it's harmless. And it's like actually like the things that you're making out to be okay is like you don't realize the impact it has. And like would they have done that if they were in a room full of like Asian Black people? No, they're just doing that because it was just a room full of the people who are the same as them, and you just have happened to be there. But you know,
Yeah.
I think that behavior in itself, when it's done in private, emboldens that terrible behavior. Like, I mean, for example, like even the differences in cultures that people have and how a business sort of accommodates for that is an indication of that. Like it's not like I mean, I work for a company. I have never experienced anything like the, you know, in any way prejudice based on race. But I worked in a company once where, you know, there was a Muslim guy who he took his prayers very seriously, and he used to take time away to, you know, to go and pray at the right time of day or whatever, and he'd need a specific room or something to do that and I remember there was an issue where, because obviously one of the rooms happened to be a meeting room, and you know what, somebody wanted the room and got really upset because he couldn't get the person to leave the room because he was praying, because, well, I need it for clients, and what's more important. And I was like, what do you mean?
yeah.
I was so aggrieved by that mentality that, you know, and again, just going to the ethos of the business, like, you know, and the thing that when I got really annoyed was when they actually told the guy, "Can you wrap it up?" Like they knocked on the door and told him to hurry up, and this guy rushed himself to finish his prayers, and then he came out of the room. And I'm thinking to myself, actually, you've checked the box. You said, okay, you know, this, you know, you can have the time, you can have your space, it's allowed, blah blah blah. But once client comes into factor, and when someone starts complaining, you know, that's not that goes from being an individual being racist. It actually goes to not. It's not even. I don't even know if we call it racism, but it's like there isn't that respect of another person's culture to say, you know, this is that important. You know what I mean? And you have to make these. You know, if you're gonna have a multicultural society, which we are, there's no avoiding it. There's no way to change that. You have to make sure that those societies are catered to. Do you know what I mean? Like it's mandatory. And I think that's the kind of things. I mean, and it goes to the question, you know, what can businesses do overall, organizations, companies do to sort of, you know, help. I guess can you combat, first of all, can you combat racism as a business? Can you do that? Is it possible?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's your duty. I think it's your duty to. I think you either take a stance, or if you don't, then you're sort of allowing these behaviors to happen. I think you need to. I think, you know, in so many different ways. Obviously, I'm not gonna like list them all, but just for example, just holding people's behaviors are like accountable, you know, like those guys that you're talking about, Ash and that guy. It's like it needs to be so clear that those kind of behaviors are not acceptable in a company. And you know, it just, I think that itself is so important.
I like the fact that also, you know, on the social media you saw that people were like, yeah, this person, you know, the Karens of the park, you know,
Karens,
that literally the company went online and said she's been fired, we don't want her working for us. Now I think that is such a clear statement. Like, fair enough, we cannot make racism. I mean, I think you should, but you can't make racist behavior illegal, right? Because that's part of freedom of speech, essentially, when it comes down to it. You know, if we, I mean, that's very layman's, that's very simplified, you know, description of that. But it's someone's right to have their opinion on something, even if it is something as silly as the color of someone's skin. But actually, when that opinion becomes detrimental to the overall society, I think it's definitely important for people to have for there to be repercussions to that behavior. Now, I don't want anyone to lose their job because of a disagreement, you know, I have with somebody else. I sure as hell don't want anyone to lose their job because there's other people involved in that process. There's families, and you know, their livelihood is being interrupted. However, you should be punished for making someone feel less than they can be, and that's what it comes down to. And I think, I think that's probably one of the biggest ways.
But her case was just especially bad because she wasn't just, she was using her position, knowing what she would say to the police, that they would believe her over this black guy, knowing the repercussions that he would have got. That in itself, I think that is.
It spoke so much volume because it sets a precedence to businesses all over the world, saying, look, actually, if this person can if this company can do it and it has a positive social impact, we have a social responsibility, not a corporate social responsibility. We have a human social responsibility.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think there's a completely different answer. There's a completely different way of thinking. And actually, I think there's going to be this movement now where, you know, you can get punished for this behavior. And I think that's the difference that's what's different now between now and when this movement started, even before Black Lives Matters. Even, you know, we're talking as far back as the, you know, civil rights movement here, that no one ever literally got punished for being racist. They got punished for committing a crime, for ending someone's life, for vandalism, but no one actually got punished for expressing your ignorant way of thinking. And I think this is and I don't think this should be, you know, and again, I'm not a believer that racism is one way. I think racism goes in all directions. I think everyone has their prejudices.
100%, yeah. Totally.
And I feel definitely that this is something, if you can verify, if you can you can prove that this someone's been showing this behavior, there should hella be repercussions for it. And I think that's one thing that I would say that's definitely a way to combat this. It's not just.
But isn't it so hard though? Because like we were just saying, there are instances where we're just like, was that racist? Like it's just there's such a fine line.
She made it clear that what she was doing was wrong. And
I think this is also like, I mean, you know, we're talking about punishing racism. I think that's obviously like one way of sort of looking at it, but then I think it's almost like putting a bandage on like issues, because importantly, how the hell do we stop people from becoming a racist in the first place? So how do we tackle racism? And I think it starts like at school, you know, like people being taught history, not through like a rose tinted glass, you know, like, oh, we won this battle and this great inventor did this, and it's like, okay, yeah, but on what expense of, you know, other people, and, you know, including Black history, including the history of racism, you know, teaching kids not to just be like, oh, I don't see color, so I'm not a racist. It's like literally like teaching people to celebrate our differences and our difference in our cultures and our different. I think it's got to start there.
Also teaching people about like, especially, you know, in this country as well, in schools, teaching about British colonization as well.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
You know, that's where that's pretty much where a lot of this started. So especially if you're in the UK, the schools should definitely kind of implement like, you know, that. I reckon
it's actually crazy because they did talk about the slave trade in school and history. That's something that is covered, but here in this country, the British involvement in that is totally glossed over.
Oh,
Like it's completely
yeah,
glossed
yeah.
over. It's not even. It's not really like they talk about the numbers of slaves that are traded. They talk about where they were taken to, and they focus very much about where they were taken to, but don't talk about the who ran those ships.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff on Henry VIII. Like there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
We did the Armada.
Oh, a lot of that.
Oh my gosh, there was.
And
The
all his
Tudors got
wives.
like pretty much 30% of my GCSE history function, but like there was just nothing on that really meaningful stuff, and those things have a great deal of impact on. I would say though that side of things have a greater deal of impact on our society today than arguably the Vikings and the Romans and all
Oh
that.
yeah, of course, yeah.
And
Yeah.
no, like what I mean. Oh, we have relics of those things, and it's those things are almost celebrated. But
Yeah.
half the statues, for example, that they took down, I didn't even know they were there.
Same here.
Yeah.
Like I was
I had
like,
no idea.
I used to walk past that statue every day on my way to work. I didn't even know that thing. I don't even know what it relates
You
to.
don't pay it no mind, right?
Exactly. And the thing is, no one, when you go on your tour guides, no one ever says that. No one, when you're speaking to your guided tour, they're all like,
This guy's
"Yes,
an active racist.
yeah,
And
exactly."
the crazy thing about statues is that you get these statues in so especially in sort of in cities, right? And you get tourists that come in, and tourists, they just take pictures next to statues, like it's a thing, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they don't know what
yeah.
the hell the statue represents.
What would you say to people who say white lives matter?
We were to say on here.
And they think they're being ignored. What I want to hear all your responses on it because I think this is such a good question.
So for me, I think if I answered honestly, it would probably be too rude to say on here. So, but if I'm being nice, I would say you're completely missing the point. The Black Lives Matter came into existence not because it's saying that other lives don't matter. It's to say that their lives matter too. And it's like the fact that they are having to say this is because of like that history of violence, history of discrimination, history of justice subjugation that they've had to endure, and that's to do with the color of their skin. So I mean, and this is like the history that should have been history, but it's not history, and that's why the Black Lives Matter, like exist, and because like it became a thing because white lives have always.
Oh, we lost you, Sai.
That's so.
How about you, Ash? Wait for Sai to come back. Well, how about you? What would you say?
I think like quite similar to very similar to Sai's point is you're missing the point. It's not the fact that white lives don't matter. It's the fact that black lives also matter. They're also they also like equally matter. And they're not even, and it's not even that black people are asking for more. It's just they're asking to be seen as equals.
We're just asking to matter. We just want to matter.
Exactly. And I think that's literally the point I would make is that there's that saying that you've probably seen all over the internet over the last like 6 weeks since George Floyd's death. But it's there are people that are saying what about white lives, and it's the whole thing about all lives don't matter until black lives do. So I mean in simple terms, like it's almost like if you say that you think people will just get it, but people don't. You need to explain. And this is the thing. I've had a couple of conversations with people that have said, like, that they said, oh, like I feel like this BLM movement is all a bit too much, etc. And then like I'm like, well, why do you think it's too much? And they said, well, like all lives matter and stuff, because they haven't understood in simple terms, in layman's terms. I've had to then educate them on the history of everything, of slavery, British colonization, police brutality, all of those sort of things. I've had to try to educate them on that.
I just always remember this very, very visual imagery of like there's the fist pumping up in the air and a sort of like infographic, and they were saying what people think Black Lives Matters is that you're elevating black people above all other races, but actually all they're trying to do is bridge the gap and make everyone the same. And it's not, when this movement is not it's a gateway for all communities. I don't think it's by any means one community or one being elevated above or else. I think it would be a failure as a movement if it became that.
Yeah.
And as a black person, I sincerely hope it's not. I sincerely hope it's a gateway to ensure that everyone's issues are now, is proactively being heard. You don't want a situation where one person in society, one group in society, then becomes. I'm not looking for this to be black people being elevated above the white race. That's not, white colored people or white people. I'm not looking for that. That's not what I want from this movement. I don't want to be seen superior or less, but I definitely want a world where just as close to not perfection, but like just basically where people have the understanding that you treat people the way you want to be treated yourself. That's what we're basing this on. You treat person next to you the way you want to be treated. You know what I mean? We as a human race will always find differences. That's our nature. We congregate based on our similarities. But my similarity, I have a lot of similarities with two people on this call right now. I have a lot of similarities with people that are not on this call right now. And those things should be considered a hell of a lot more than just the country I'm from or the color which is already because of the way the people in my country evolved based on the amount of sunlight they consume.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not my fault. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's. I don't think it's. I think that's basically what I would say.
Do you feel optimistic?
Well, that's a good question. I do. I think the nature of this, and there's a generational shift anyway. There's now a new wave of young people, new wave of young thinking, a new wave of philosophies coming into play, and I think overall, socially, there's a lot people are more open-minded. Establishments and policy law does not reflect. It's a little bit behind at the moment. And I think that's what we're suffering from right now. The policies that govern our lands and the world at the moment is a little bit behind.
Because they were made like hundreds of years ago. They were made in the time where it was okay to discriminate. It was okay to be racist. And I think now it's moving the other way, isn't it? Sort of the drive, the want, and the voices of the people will hopefully eventually be heard by those who make the laws and make the rules. And
definitely. And I think that's the only thing that scares me. And I would say this is how when you do have a more liberal, what's a liberal? Well, more open-minded government in place, like for example, we've had and I always make the connection between you had Clinton, and you had George Bush, you had Obama, then you had Trump. That's it gets worse. That's
I know
it always becomes more and more extreme as almost as a response, and that's the scary part of it. And I think that's one thing I would like to. I'm hoping that becomes addressed over time. But that only comes with people, understanding their rights as individuals, understanding implications of being more involved in, the social elements of voting and, being present, making your voices heard and speaking out, but also doing it in the right way, not in these private forums that doesn't really have an impact, but also, making a change and making a difference. People are far too happy, donating money to the needy. But the thing about making those donations, they remain in your mind. They remain needy. Do you know what I mean? You're keeping that condition perpetuating that condition. You're not really fixing. The goal is to help them while they're needy, but actually, what are you doing to bridge that gap to make them more like you? To give them the situation where they're living in good conditions, and that's what we should be doing. And I think that once we can get those kind of things changed, then I think there'll be a lot more reasons to be optimistic.
I think it's a long road ahead of us, but I think it's slowly going in the right direction. Especially if you've seen it's actually quite a short history where we've sort of come from. Do you know what I mean? It's not a long time. It feels like a long time to us because like we don't live that long, but it's not that many generations ago when slavery was still
I mean, we feel fresh, and there's still. I mean, and the fact that we've made this small movement, and even though it's an inch in this big journey that we're on, it feels like we've done so much has happened.
Yeah, it really does.
And it's only the start of the road, and you know what I mean. It's I don't think when we think about the movement, we don't realize how far that journey actually is. Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a very good topic, a good conversation to be had, and I think I think as a whole, a lot more should be had.
Yeah, I think it's something that shouldn't sort of like be a one-off. I think this is the kind of conversations that a lot of people should be having, and hopefully are having, and not just people who. I think it's also really important for people to just not talk to people in their circles. Like, I mean, I do it because obviously that's the direct line. But you know, like us coming together and like talking about it and just talking to people who've experienced different things in that from their lives. It's been really eye-opening for me, and I think it's important for other people to do that as well, not just talk to people who've had similar life experience to them. Because you'll never know, you'll never learn until you speak to someone who's got different perspectives.
I've appreciated different ways people have come to ask. I think that's I think that was one of the, I've had direct questions. I've had people come and they'll send me something and say, oh, what do you think about this? Or I think that's one of the nicest things about the whole thing. There have been different ways where people have said,
you're right.
Yeah. It's so, and it's, am I okay? But also I want to know how it feels for you.
That's really good.
What I've done or what I do, or like for example, I don't know if this is a bit of an analogy, but bear with me. So in Spain, they have a couple of brands that they have. Like there's one in particular which is like it's a peanut brand, chocolate peanut brand, and if you look at the image, it's very very close to the Gollywog doll.
Right.
And it's a known brand. It's like they use it. I mean, it's one of the most popular brands. When you're thinking about it, it's very similar to Mars in Spain. Like it's a big brand, right? And my girlfriend, she's Spanish and she's white as well. And she's like, so there's something online. And she showed it to me on Facebook. She's like, I'm concerned because this is like I sing the song and I've just realized I just seen something that suggests that it's racist. Why is it racist? I don't understand. And it's like, I knew about this brand because I have other Spanish friends that told me about it. When they told me about it, they're like, "Oh, it's so cute!" And in fact, they even called me the brand itself.
Oh,
and I'm like, because to them it's endearing.
And a lot of people won't know the history of the Gollywogs. You know what I mean? They won't know how like what's wrong with it. It's just like a black doll.
So I had to show her. Because to be honest, until that situation, I've never Googled the Gollywog doll, right? I know it exists, but I've never Googled it. So I Googled it for her and I said, this is where people find it insulting. She goes, yeah, but it's not bait. I said, it kind of is, like, because it's very very similar. Like it's and she goes, I like, if you know the history of these products and where they come from, it's a reflection of where they come from, right?
Yeah. And she was the kind of society that
exactly. And I showed her two different brands from Spain. I showed her a brand called Colacao, which is another chocolate brand, but they showed people picking the fruit, and it's a true depiction of what it looks like to pick cocoa off the trees. And I said, this is not offensive because this is real. This is offensive because it's a derogatory depiction of a black person.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my god, and she felt there was such a like genuine distraught feeling because she doesn't see herself. So in her mind, she's always said, I don't see you as a black person. I just see you as you. I see you as an individual. Not that I don't see color. I see you as an individual. So she was totally like she was.
That's an amazing conversation.
Yeah, and she'd called me. She said it to me before, and I knew where it was coming from. I was like, I didn't react to it, so she knew that She knew I didn't like it because I didn't laugh. I didn't say anything. I ignored it, but she said she didn't do it again. But she was like, she was like, I'm really sorry. I didn't. That was not what I meant.
Yeah.
And it was like actually, but that's the kind of programming we've now had. Like even without realizing, you're being programmed in the subliminal to have this very, you know.
But how amazing that you've had that conversation with her, and then how many other people will she have had that conversation with, saying, this is why this is wrong, and this is the history of this, and this is why we can't do this. And it's spreads like education. So maybe it is up to you. Maybe it is up to us to, you know, educate them, because it's not just for our benefit, it's actually for other people's benefits as well.
It definitely is. I mean, I don't think you can put a limit to the potential change education can bring, and every opportunity is a learning one. But I think yeah, like you say, it's when you say about the future, when we talk about the future, what this, you know, what my thoughts are. I think in addition to, you know, bringing that bridging that gap of, you know, understanding is the learning that goes with it. You know, there should be, and I don't think it needs to be just at school. I think, you know, there should be a lot more.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Conversation more around, you know, people having open dialogue, bringing people together, not even necessarily. I don't even think necessarily it's a case of, you know, talking about the history, but talking about how to get, you know, how to understand each other better. You know what I mean? You know, just get to understand each other jokes, get to understand the way, just to understand the way people are different but still the same. I think that would make all the difference in the world. I think it's, it'd be nice though.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Why can't we just all get along?
I know.